Hi everyone. My name is Sandra Roxon. This is my final exam roundtable discussion PowerPoint. Um, and today we're going to be diving into essential project management concepts that can make or break project success. So let's get started with an overview of today's agenda. Here's what we'll be covering. First, we'll revisit the foundations of project management, what it is and why it matters. Next, we'll look at project management, including the Cotter model and how teams adjust to shifting priorities. Then we'll explore the work breakdown structure, which is fundamental for organizing scope. After that, we'll tackle project risk management and how to stay ahead of problems and capitalize on opportunities. Finally, we'll close with conflict resolution and project closure, because how you end a project is just as important as how you start it. And throughout that, I'm looking to just gain some insights on your perspective to project management as well. So what exactly is project management? According to the Project Management Guide, it's the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to meet project requirements. The four components are scope, time, cost, and quality. These make up the iron triangle or the triple constraint which project managers are constantly balancing. We also have essential roles such as project manager, who acts as the captain of the ship, and the stakeholders who can influence or be affected by the outcome. The five process groups are initiation, planning, execution, monitoring, and close. These are the frameworks of what keeps everything on track. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how do you define project management? Is it finishing on time, under a budget, or is it something more about stakeholder satisfaction? So what would your just personal definition of project management be?
To
What my
me, oh,
okay,
go ahead.
sorry. So what my personal idea of project management is meeting the stakeholders team, but also executing that deadline at the same time, being proactive to make sure we're catching things before they get out of hand, but also meeting the deadlines of the stakeholders so every component is hit when it's succeeding in the project.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it's pretty much the same thing I was gonna say. Um, to me, is making sure everybody's happy, all the stakeholders, the team members, making sure the teams was motivated, they were respected through the project, and also getting feedback from them as far as what to do next in the next project.
Thank you for the feedback. And before I move on to the next slide, I did touch on the project management foundations, but they're also the essential roles that keep the project, moving. I think we all know about the project manager, the PM, and that's such a popular role that we all know about. They're responsible for the day-to-day management, planning, and execution of the project, but also the project team, which are the cross-functional groups that execute tasks and create the deliverables, and the stakeholders, the individuals or groups with the interest or influence over the project outcomes. So just having conversations with them daily to get the project over to the finish line is just super important, and also important if you have that flexibility to be able to select your project team. All right, I'm going to move on to the next slide. Leading through change in projects. Change is inevitable, whether it's shifting timelines, scope creep, or organizational restructuring. We need a structured approach to change, and that's where change management comes in. For me, I like the Cotter 8-step model. It's a proven roadmap, starting with creating urgency and ending with changes to implement. And strategy just isn't alone. The success lies in the communication, stakeholder involvement, ongoing support so people don't resist the change. Change is hard, but once you just follow a model and have a structure approach, it's easy to see it until the end. So for the Cotter 8-step change model, it's again, create urgencies, build a coalition, form vision, communicate, empower action, short-term wins, sustain acceleration, and anchor changes. And the key steps are clear communication, make sure the stakeholders are involved and approve of this change. And also when there's a change, a lot of times, you need also training and support so people understand the necessary resources, what's gonna, how you're gonna move forward just with the project. So can anyone share a project experience where change resistance was just a challenge?
Yes. One of my previous projects, there was a lot of changes required because, of course, creating software is not easy and it requires a lot of things to be switched around to make it effective and to meet the stakeholders' needs. So I noticed a lot of the team members, when it came to, of course, reaching a certain limit of how many changes are being made, they kind of get frustrated and confused. So that's where the clear communication comes into place. When you communicate clearly, hey, there's going to be a lot of changes involved with making this software successful. And of course, the training and support and being encouraging and motivating, that could kind of turn some of the attitudes around and to kind of set a clear expectation like this whole project will consist of a lot of changes. We just want to ensure we meet the stakeholders' needs and have a successful project in the end.
I agree, and I like how you touched on just clear communication. I think a lot of times we'll hear that change is happening, but we don't hear why is this changing. When we hear there's going to be a change, you want your PM or whoever is leading the project to tell you why it's changing and what's changing, so you can just fully grasp and understand.
Can I touch base on that? So does this change also include like changing leadership?
Any any
Okay,
change.
yes. We have this issue in the military as well. Sometimes we have changing leadership, so like the commander gets moved or he gets switched or he gets replaced. So in a lot of times, so when service members are so used or they feel so motivated by this commander, whenever they get to move, the team is not motivated anymore. They're just coming to work. They're just going through the day. So I think that's one thing. I can use as well in the army, in the service.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And I like that example with changing leadership, because sometimes I see it might be like a trickle down effect. When there's a change in leadership, people can be unmotivated, or that change in leadership, they may not even feel that the project is a priority. But maybe last leadership, the person that was the leader felt that way, but this one who is new might not be prioritizing this project. So it's just such a trickle down effect to other things that can, affect the project, and what kind of changes might arise. So when there is a change, I do like to use this 8-step change model to just have, again, a structure approach. The work breakdown structure is how we turn ideas into bite-sized action. It breaks the project into layers, from deliverables to work packages to individual tasks. It's sort of like a family tree of work, makes scope tangible and trackable, aligns clear ownership, enhances scheduling and cost estimation. We follow best practices, and everything in scope must appear in the work breakdown structure, making sure that work packages don't overlap. So a work breakdown structure is supposed to define and organize the scope, creates a visual representation of the entire project, ensuring that nothing is overlooked, aligns ownership so people know their clear responsibility and what they should be working on, what they should be accountable for, improve scheduling and budgeting, facilitates more accurate time cost estimates by breaking down complex projects into manageable components that individuals can um, that can be assessed by individuals and enhances project control. Just seeing it all in a structure provides a baseline for measurable progress, enhancing variance and implementing corrective action through the project lifecycle. So again, I had broke it down on this triangle: projects, major deliverables, sub-deliverables, work packages, and tasks. Best practices for a work breakdown structure is that 100% of the work is defined by the project scope and captures all deliverables, internal, external, and intern. It's mutually exclusive. It has the outcomes, not the actions, and progressive elaboration, and the 2 to 8 rule, which each level should be breaking down into 2 to 8 subcoordinates elements for optimal management. How well does a defined work breakdown structure improve clarity, accountability in your projects? And what challenges have you faced in creating effective work breakdowns?
So for me personally, WBS and project management, it basically breaks down the complex projects into more manageable tasks because there's so many components when it comes down to having these big projects that you definitely want to break it down into subtasks to ensure the success of a project. Some challenges faced is, of course, forgetting things sometimes that can be considered a subtask, digging into your creative mind to create those subtasks because so many components can fall into so many projects, of course. So you want to dive deeper and deeper to make sure you hit every component to ensure the success of your project.
I love that. Thanks for sharing.
So for me, I don't really have a lot of experience when it comes to WS, but my understanding is kind of like a big to-do list for the whole project, and at the same time, it breaks down the project into smaller pieces. So what I think, I mean, what I've seen as well is like it's kind of like the WS can also be added to like kind of like agile methodologies and to make both work together. I don't know if it's a thing, but that's kind of like what I got from WS. But like I said, I don't have any experience with WS. So
Thanks for that example. Agreed. Proactively managing project risk. Risk management is all about anticipating the unexpected. We identify, analyze, plan, and monitor risks so they don't derail the project. We often focus on negative risks, such as budget overturns, missed deadlines, but don't forget the positive risk like unexpected efficiencies or new stakeholder opportunities. Strategies include avoiding, mitigating, transferring, and accepting. Risk response strategies with avoidance is eliminating the threat by removing it, extending the schedule, or changing the strategy. Mitigation, reducing probability, impact, or adverse event to acceptable thresholds. Transfer, shifting impact and ownership to a third party. Acceptance, acknowledging the risk and taking no preemptive action, either actively or passively. Common project risks are, again, technical issues, budget overturns, schedule risk, scope creep, which happens very often, resource constraint, and stakeholder resistance. And before you start a project, it's just so important to take a step back and look at all of the possible risks before they come, just so you can monitor and control the possible risk. Has anybody had a situation where catching a risk early saved the day?
Yes. So, in a situation of a previous project I had, scope creep, which is one that you named, is something that I experienced, which can lead to a lot of negative consequences, such as increased costs, extended timelines, and reduced quality. So, we definitely want to prevent scope creep before it even gets started because it can lead into multiple different problems that can affect the entire project. Catching that at the beginning saves money, it saves time, and it increases the quality of the project as well when you're analyzing that from the beginning.
For sure. Thank you for that. And are there any key indicators that alerted you of the potential scope creep?
Key indicators that I would say are, of course, things running over, for example, and when we were creating the software in the software development phase of the project, we were having bugs at the beginning that were making the time longer than expected. And of course, implementing the security aspect of that software to making sure everything was safe. It was kind of going out of the budget, and then the timeline was expanding more, creating
Mhm.
multiple problems within the project, and it was kind of getting off track. So we had to reel it in and catch all of those things from the beginning, is what I learned throughout that project.
Great example.
Thank you.
Bryce, any feedback on this one?
No, I don't have anything this one.
Okay. And then projects right, resolution and closure. Projects often start strong but fizzle out at the end. Closure is more important than finalizing the deliverable. It's about wrapping up people, processes, and paperwork. Conflict can also bubble up as a project is winding down. Disputes over resources, reassignments, or final approval. The Thomas Kilmann model helps us understand conflict resolution from avoiding to collaborating. Ideally, we aim for collaboration, but it takes some time. Closure steps include deliverable sign-offs, confirming deliverable, verifying that they're all completed and accepted by the stakeholders, and having formal sign-off and project completion from the sponsors and key stakeholder. Contract closure as well, ensuring that all contractual obligations have been fulfilled, all payments are processed, and contracts are formally closed with vendors and contractors. Final reporting, prepare and distribute final project documentation, including performance reports, financial summaries, and variance analyses. Knowledge transfer, facilitating the handoff of the project deliverables to the operations team, including documents, training, SOPs, any procedures that they're going to need to know, and lessons learned, conducting a retrospective session of the successes, challenges, and recommendation for future project, and team recognition, acknowledging the team contribution, and formally releasing team members back to their functional area. Um, there's a few conflict resolution styles that the Thomas Kilmann model identifies to help, with any conflicts that might arise as closing the project. What's one thing that you believe people often forget during closure of a project?
I'll go first. So I think one thing people forget, especially in my case in the military, is team recognition, because we have leadership most of the time. They believe that service members, they're already getting paid every first and the 15th, so they don't feel the need to thank them or appreciate them at the end of every project. But they forget that appreciating someone is not necessarily giving them money or giving them a price. Sometimes people can be happy with just like a recognition, like a thank you note, or like a day off, or just something. It doesn't have to be money. It doesn't have to be something crazy. I think that's one thing a lot of people forget to do at the end.
Yeah, I think that's a great thing that you brought up. And for the sake of time, I'm going to move on to the next slide. Major insights and final thoughts. Key takeaways from our roundtable discussion. Um, Project management is foundational. It's not just a checklist, it's how we turn a vision into action. Change is inevitable, so it's important to be prepared and use structured approach. WBS provides structure, proactive risk management, and conflict resolution. I'll open the floor to any final thoughts that we might have. Um, and one of mine is successful project management is just Successful project management is about people just as much as it is the processes.